says Seiko Corporation cannot compete with the heavy lights in watchmaking? Grand Seiko is part of the hierarchy of Seiko Corporation underneath their top-tier brand, Creator. Grand Seiko was actually a line of watches back then, before becoming a standalone high-end brand last 2017. Grand Seiko was created in 1960 by Daini Seikosha and Suwa Seikosha, the two subsidiaries of Seiko Corporation, to present a line of watches that could compete with the Swiss watchmakers. Back then, people only considered Swiss watches to be the luxury watches. What sets apart Grand Seiko from the rest? I will be giving 3 reasons why Grand Seiko is so special. The first one is the finishing. It's hard to explain this one without holding and seeing one Grand Seiko watch in your hands. Grand Seiko watches undergo the process of so-called Shiratsu polishing. This Shiratsu polishing gives the watches a mirror-like finish that exudes luxury and of great quality. The word Shiratsu came as a Japanese pronunciation of a European company that used to make a polishing machine, and it's what the Grand Seiko polishers called the process that involves using the machine. Back then, the Seiko company had not established, in terms of design, any real identity for Grand Seiko line of watches until the appointment of a young design graduate that was given the task to visualize the identity of Grand Seiko. And in 1962, this designer spent long hours at Wagyu store in Ginza, Japan, Tokyo's most exclusive shopping district, watching how people would react to different watch brands from all around the world. He drew 2 conclusions. First, he saw that Grand Seiko watches didn't have a clear and common identity. They were perfect in terms of individual designs, but not immediately recognizable in the Wako showcase as Grand Seiko. Second, he realized in order to stand out and attract the eye, Grand Seiko needed to have more brilliance. In order to achieve that, the design of the watches must sparkle with quality. This includes sharper angles and distort-free surfaces. Uniqueness. If you would ask me who gives great dial options among the watch brands out there, I will put Grand Seiko on the list. Grand Seiko, great attention to detail, is one of the reasons I respected the brand itself. From intricate lacquer application to definitely unique gouache patterns. One great example is their snowflake model, one of the celebrated watch faces from the brand. The term snowflake was not given to the watch by the Grand Seiko team. Instead, it was widely talked about among the watch collectors, and the name emerged due to its resemblance to snowy-like texture. The said dial texture was a product of a very long process, which includes die stamping and silver plating. Since silver has the highest visible light reflection rate of all the metals, its appearance will achieve the desired purity of white. It is said that it takes 80 separate steps for a certain brass plate to become a beautiful unique snowflake dial. Innovation. When it comes to innovation, Seiko Corporation is unparalleled. They were the sole reason that caused the significant decline of the Swiss watchmaking industry during the quartz crisis, the time wherein quartz electronic technology replaced the traditional mechanical movement to power up a watch. Seiko also introduced the spring drive movement, which they incorporated in some of the watches for the Grand Seiko. So spring drive is a unique watch technology that generates energy by combining an electronic regulator to a mechanical movement in order to deliver a level of precision that no mechanical watch can match. One notable feature of the spring drive movement is the smooth sweeping seconds hands. We will review one of the watches from the Grand Seiko brand, the reference number SBGA201G. The SBGA201G is part of the Heritage Collection. The said dial is a champagne color treated with sunburst pattern that glares when you rotate your wrist. The case size is pretty decent at 42mm, with a thickness of 12.5mm. The clasp is a 3-fold system with push button release. Powering the watch is the caliber number 9R65 or the spring drive movement, with approximate power reserve of 72 hours. The accuracy is kept within plus or minus 1 second a day or plus or minus 15 seconds per month. The crown is a screw down type. The bezel is well polished to a mirror-like finish. The smooth sweeping seconds hand will just take you away, or I would rather say hypnotize you as it rotates on the dial. People always tell that the power reserve indicator on the dial is a letdown on the watch. They wanted a neat face, but for me, it added character to the Grand Seiko's name. I really love how they have done about the hands as well as the hour markers. For the hands, they use 2 types of finishing, the satin brush finishing on the inside and on the edge the Shiratsu polishing. For me, it gives the hour and minute hands the sharpness in the looks that screams quality. For the hour markers, they have done a cool faceted beveling. When the seconds hand rotate, its reflection is seen on the polished parts of the hour markers. The price for this watch is valued at approximately $5,000, a pretty expensive timepiece. With almost the same price point, you can get the entry-level watch of Rolex, the Oyster Perpetual. But between the two, would you rather buy a Grand Seiko or a Rolex? Thanks for watching another content here on TimeCheck channel.